hello to begin another episode of Always Strikes Last.
That's right.
We're waiting for something.
It's Always Strikes Last. And an Age of Sigmar podcast with Miles, Matt, and Jack.
Where we sometimes say hello.
We like to use our intros the same way a musician likes to use jazz. Like a way to riff on things. But we don't really have any rules for it like jazz does. So
exactly. We'd like to keep ourselves on our toes.
There we go. It's if you thought we were just making it up, you'd be right.
Yeah. Winging it with style.
Yeah. Speaking of winging it, though, we all got some games in this weekend where I was definitely winging it, so that's good. Let's see. I went to a GT at Warhammer World. Jack, you went to a one-dayer, an RTT, at our favorite hobby shop in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Exactly, down to the Pandemonium for the Arvid Art Boys RTT.
There we go. And Matt, you played games at home, probably.
Actually went up to Beasley's to prep for
look at you getting out of the house.
Sparkle party. Yeah, look at me.
Was that the garage hammer I hear so much about on the Discord?
Oh no, kind of, yes, but we fancily played in home, bereft of any wind for once. So that was an excellent experience with the windstorms coming through right now.
Oh, do you want to lead us off with how that went?
I kind of want to hear about Jack's whole thing going on.
Let's zoom on over to Pandemonium Books and Games.
Right. Well, Pandemonium Books and Games, small RTT, local man manages to emerge to play a one-dayer. Is pretty much the story. Hopefully sallying forth to bring some glory to ASL and our very global presence, such as it is. So, I was bringing my Slaves to Darkness. That's the theme for this year. And I want to try out a few new things because I'm kind of addicted to novelty or cool tech. So
it's the spice of life, Jack.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. So still going to the mostly Slaaneshi theme. I brought the Slaves to Darkness and I did like a host ever chosen list. And I kind of decided to go like many drops. I think it was like 11 or something the other day. Like no battle reg or anything like that. Yeah. So I went a Warlord, which had Bellicor, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, who was the General, who had like the Arcane Tome and Master of Magic. So he's really good at casting the spells he needs to. A Chaos Lord who's there to be a Tunnel Mastery kind of guy with the helm that shuts off, people who are a couple wounds or less from countdown objectives. Mm-hmm. The Unmade to round that one out. Then a Galatian Veterans Battalion with a 10x Chaos Chosen with the Slaanesh Banner and the Slaanesh Mark. 10 Chaos Warriors with the Nurgle Banner, the Nurgle Mark. Dark Oath Savagers. And then, after all that, the fun stuff. Sitting outside of battalions. And that would be a Chaos War Shrine with Slaaneshi stuff.
Nice.
And then what I've been calling the Menagerie, which are the pets for the Chosen. Excellent. And that is a Mindstealer's Phalanx, an allied Cockatrice, and an allied Chaos Gargant from the new Beast of Chaos book.
Nice.
Oh, nice. I bet that Chaos Gargant did some work.
Of all of them, he was probably the one that did some work, but not as much as I would have thought. Like I was waiting for him to have his like awesome moment, and I'll get into the games real quick and run you guys through like the event. But I was always waiting for the moment like the Chosen would have something really armory to hit, like with only one rend, and then he would run up and he would smell on them to reduce their save, and then roar at them to prevent like an all-out defense, which had just been the moment to see something evaporate there. But alas, he was more of a cool support piece, this one. But kind of jumping into it, I had a lot of fun with it. It was a good local one-dayer, right? We had some time in the game shop. We had some lunch together, had a beer after.
Did you get the 1369 Vietnamese coffee?
Oh, that one, I did almost get the Vietnamese coffee. I went for a regular coffee because I didn't want the sugar bomb from like all that condensed milk, but it was like... It was living the dream. It was. For those of you who don't know Miles and I too personally, or haven't heard the stories, if you do, we used to game with this club all the time. It was our home club for many years. So I was in memory lane.
There we go.
Doing this, yeah. Yeah. So it was certainly an adventure in that regard. I ended up playing really great opponents. Had a good time with it. First one was against a guy named Daruk Uzel, and he was playing some Lumineth Realm Lords against me. And it was one of those games where I knew what I needed to do. It was, will he be able to stop me by frustrating these Chosen or killing them or getting their way or something like that? Because he brought a list which was really like a lot of Sentinels and a lot of the Spearmen. And he had some other spicy stuff, the character that deep strikes kind of anywhere he wants. We should give him that guy 3-up auto survive. Yeah. He had a couple fast units of, the cavalry, just kind of like zip around and grab objectives or do whatever. And then he had, the 10 sword masters and a light of Eltharion. So,
ooh.
Yeah, it's like kind of like an interesting set of things to deal with, because that Light of Eltharion is kind of a scary assassin these days in terms of like foot heroes who can actually fight.
Sure.
So
yep, and the swords are no joke now.
Oh, exactly. Like I'm a little afraid of them. You don't want them to go off. It's like
the swords are no joke. The swordsmen are TBD.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I'll kind of run through this one fairly quickly because he took first turn because, of course, I had 1,000,000 drops and he had fewer. And he did some magic and he got some shots off and did a little damage to the Chosen, but not a concerted amount, not enough to like really whittle them down. And then it came time for the Slaves to Darkness Chaos Fun turn. And Mr. Magic himself went off and did his extremely reliable 3d6 cast to make sorcerer demonic power happen on the Chosen, which he can like reroll if he gets the double one or whatever. Getting the Mystic Shield and all that. And I managed to sort of focus them up the lane in the middle and do the big double charge where they ran in and they hit the first wall of Wardens who did not have a 5 of ward up at this point, notably kill them all and immediately consolidate and kill all the archers. So right there, they snagged about a third of the army, the bottom of one, while I had sort of cleaned up the horses who'd come and done some stuff on the other side and tried to start killing that very hard to finally finish off, hero who is like kind of the lore seeker or whatever on one of those objectives. And then I managed to demonic power the sword guys when it was their turn to react, and then come in and finish off everything else with the Chosen and the rest of the army, because the monsters had beaten up Eltharion on the other side of the board, as well as some of those horses as part of it. So it was a pretty strong finish for the Slaves of Darkness, but a lot of scary moments, because Daruk had done some interesting stuff with those choices, and it was hard to tell exactly whether or not they would just like finish off something I would otherwise consider defensible. High marks went to Eltharion, who ran up to try to kill Be'lakor, and the Cockatrice did the Cockatrice's special move where he looked real hard at him.
Nice.
Yeah, and made him so he's going to hit on like 6s. So in my head, I'm like, good, perfect defense. This will never work now. Eltharion was like, 6s is my only number. Yep. He got a bunch of hits. And he almost one-shot Be'lakor. It was really cool. He got him from 14 wounds down to 1. And I hadn't realized it at this point because I think I hadn't reviewed his rules before. But he has like 2d3 damage or something against monsters or heroes, I think, with one of his swords. And both of those had hit and gone through. So it was like very scary.
Yeah, he's pretty nasty. That whole new book is like sleeper nasty. It's amazing how little like fanfare it got when it came out.
I know, right? Like I feel like it's all I hear about now as far as like the scary techless castle builds or whatnot. But they're it was showing some of that here too. But fun game on the whole. I ended up taking it. We had some lunch after that, and I came back for what I was considering the scariest thing of the day at that point, which was a match against Gloomspite Gitz.
Oh my goodness.
The new boogeyman. And I know we were talking about how I wanted to fight a goblin. Well, I got my wish. Played a great guy named Miles Goverick. He's from Wicked Dicey. He and I know each other a bit, from times up there, going to events with those folks. And he'd come down to the tournament. So, bringing a really good list, really strong players. So it's like, I was sitting there, I'm like, all right, awesome army, great player. This is going to be real hard. What am I going to do? But it ended up working out, with a little bit of luck on my side. We were playing the mission, I think it's Battle Lines Drawn, right? Where it's the big quarters or how you control, the border. And he brought a list which had some of the elements you'd expect from like the big scary new kits. He had the 36 strong blob of squiggy guys. You know, I think it was a squig herd. He had the guy with the mushrooms who could give them buffs. He had Scragrot. He had that. I think it's like the warband or whatever, where it has like the hero that can just give them like a fight on death. You know what I'm talking about, Miles?
Yep, Gitrax, not Gitrax. I actually just got it. No, it's not Zarbag. It's the other Underworld's warband that just came out, where everybody has armor.
I can't keep track of all the stupid.
It's the best. It's the best kit so far. It's got like, instead of a Boingrot bouncer, it's a Boingrot bouncer with a little hammer on the end of his lance.
Oh,
so
nice.
He can
that's right.
People.
Yeah.
It was literally like such a cool kit, and I know I'd kind of seen it when they released it in one of those boxes, but I hadn't paid attention to the rules for this one either. And I'm like, wow,
really good.
Wow,
really
yeah,
good.
On both sides too, which is unusual. Sometimes it's like the warband is like good for one utility function, or their hero happens to be good, but this one is like a double win, because the hero just sits there and he just pokes a unit he happens to be near and says, "Yeah, you guys can all fight on death now until we're done with this next hero phase or whatever." Yeah. And he has the other dudes, which are a reasonably like medium range skirmishy fighting unit, who can get a 4-up ward save if they go in their quest and like end up on top of a piece of terrain he's nominated. Yeah. So, they just hand Gork that somewhere, which he did to me, to something near my deployment zone. And all of a sudden, there's a sticky little goblin unit with a 4-up ward save. So it's a pretty interesting, but I digress. Just kind of running through some of the cool stuff in the Scary Gets list. He also had the whatever they call them, like the Gobbapalooza. So one of those. Yep. He had the big spider being ridden by a goblin boss that can do like a ton of mortal wounds. Not like the Arachnarok, but the medium-sized one.
I gotcha. Yeah. The single hero on spider.
Yeah, exactly. Then a couple 5-man spider rider units for screening purposes. A big mangler squig. And I think whatever the marsh crawler Slogoth, I think it is, it gives like the aura +1 to hit.
Yep.
Nice. And this is the last piece that's going to come into play for kind of how this thing played out. He had 10 fanatics.
10 fanatics are
that's a lot of fanatics.
Nasty. Yeah. So a little interesting, So we deploy, get all our stuff done. He gives me first top of 1. So I take it, and I had a kind of a plan of trying to smash the Loon Shrine before it could do anything. So I brought up Bellicor to try to get in there, if I got a reasonably high charge, to hop over the spider screen he put up there and just take it out before it could start pooping out residual units. And I also was doing what the Chosen do. I buffed them up. They got all the buffs. So I brought them up to do a big alpha charge and try to like pin him in his deployment zone. I knew there was some risk, but I didn't think there was any better way to not lose on a thing where giant amounts of units can just steal the objectives from me by having more bodies in every table quarters.
Sure.
Objective. Yep. Yeah. So of course Miles had anticipated this, and he put me in like the scariest spot. I was like in a cold sweat for like 5 or 7 minutes on this, because there was an incredible comical moment where the Gobbapalooza, pulled out from their pocket dimension swatches or their skirts the 10 fanatics. So 5 goblin men produced 10 fanatics who ran out from wherever they were hiding, right in front of the Chosen. And we're kind of in this corridor where I don't really have a lot of choices but to charge the fanatics or not charge the fanatics. Like, they are going to get impacted. But the fanatics were near Grincrack, so Grincrack gave him his blessing or whatever of goblin knightly virtue, and they were going to fight on death. And I had Mystic shielded the Chosen, and of course I had a command point sitting by to give him an all-out defense, if it came to it. But I was not loving the prospect of charging my prime killing unit into 10 fanatics. So we're going to do 10d6, 3-up, Ren -2, d3 damage hits on them. You guys can kind of imagine, even with a 6-up ward save, this could have been disastrous. Could have been just game over right there. So I was trying every way in my head to work around it or not have to do it. But then I realized that when I charged in Bellicor, where he was, on intention, was like a millimeter or 2 beyond being able to smash the Loon Shrine, but it was going to like clear the spider screen and set himself up for maybe later. But if I didn't bring in the Chosen, all of the fanatics are going to be able to kind of run in and like one by one just kill him. It would have been like bye Bellicor. So I had to commit and take the risk. And I did. And long story short, it worked out. The Chosen didn't all die. They managed to, roll decent armor saves and against like the wall of attacks. And I cleared the fanatics and I cleared the spiders. And I took the opportunity to bring in the Chosen to just menace the rest of it, tie a couple of heroes in combat, and kill the Gobblepalooza.
Nice.
So,
wow.
So right against the shrine, everything's pinned in. On the other flank, I've taken the left quarter, the giant and the dark hosts have kind of gone over there. On the right side, the unmade and some other things are kind of like ensuring there are bodies in the upper right hand quadrant. And then there's some stuff in the home objective, including the Chaos Warriors kind of camping and trying to keep it safe. I don't want to belabor it too much, but we kept going on with an intense back and forth. Like the spider boss came in and he killed Be'lakor in one round with poison wound attacks. Very scary. Can't stop the mortals. And different things happened, but the highlights and what allowed me to take the game where Be'lakor decided to bless the giant squig unit with his dark blessings. So he did not get to do anything in turn 1.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Oh, that's the MVP play right there.
Especially because
squig.
Because it's such a big unit, and when you deploy it, you're probably deploying it next to the Loon Shrine anyway, because the deployment zones are tight, and so it's really easy to get yourself behind that unit, and then you can't go anywhere because there's 36 squigs in your way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like I think it was pinning at least Skagrad exactly where he was. I mean, and so it left him in a situation where he was able to like move the Mars Crawler Sloggoth if he wanted to. I don't think he did. He did try to move the spiders up on one side, and he did try some stuff with like the Boingrot Bounders and some resurrected, not Boingrot Bounders, sorry, the Mangler Squigs and some resurrected fanatics. But it just wasn't the wave of death that would have been if like that big blob was able to get in the middle of the board, like in that crucial turn. Yeah. And then, it just held everything back. So after that, I kind of left it alone for a little while because I didn't want to run in there while it was going to get blessed with the fight on death immediately. And he'd left the Chosen alone by retreating those characters. So I rallied a few of them, and they're sitting there being a menace. And then the final piece and funniest bit of the game, I think, happened. It was kind of worth highlighting, which is, he'd come around to try to collapse that flank. And, the Grinkarks, knights had teleported. So they were kind of over there by where the Chaos Lord was holding things in the back rank, along with the Sorcerer. And he'd brought around the Mangler Squig, and he made the charge against Be'lakor, then big boinged over to try to clear out the Unmade near the Mind Stealer's Phalanx, and the Cockatrice. Well, the Cockatriced him, so he was going to hit on 6s.
Nice.
Yeah,
very nice.
I don't recall if the Mind Stealer had actually worked on him, but it was less material because he just didn't roll 6s, with all those scary attacks. Mm-hmm. And so the Unmade were like absolutely shocked that they are not used to surviving contact with anything, but they did a couple wounds to him and kept it going. And that sort of continued. I mean, on his neck, I brought in the Chosen, and they killed off the Resurrected Fanatics and the Mangler Squig, so that was gone on my next activation. Then he brought the big spider over to try to fight the Mind Stealer, which didn't fully win for him. So continuation of this little stalemate over there, with the things kind of slogging on. The Chaos Lord was also able to run in and kill Grunkark's 4-up. Warded guys or get them as close as, to when they weren't going to be able to fully threaten him as he cleared them off and they did other things. And that ended up getting us to a point where we're kind of close to time. We figured out kind of where the lay of the land was, and, it was a game, but really, really good game. A lot of scary moments, a lot of interesting things going on the table, and a little good luck on my part, because if those squigs had been able to do their thing, it would have been really hard to stop that avalanche.
Yeah, they're definitely a wall, especially with whatever sub-faction your opponent's using too. So good on you. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun time. Miles is a great opponent. Had to get a really good one with that. So I was excited to get like a chance to really see him at the table and see him piloted in like a scary way. So it was a good one. And that brought me to the last bit, which was the final boss. A friend of mine named Alex, I think his pronounced last name is Silfshire, but he plays Blades of Corn, like Reaper's of Vengeance type stuff, and so it's
nice.
Yeah, that combo, which is so technical but scary, that exists right now, where you have big old Be'lakor to do some shutting down of his own, and then you have some Fleshhounds, you have the Blood Secretor guy, you have the maybe a priest kicking around, but you definitely have Scarbrand, the Axe Bloodthirster, and the Bloodthirster lets him do the 6-inch piling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So long story short, the game itself ended up being really back and forth, where like certain things wouldn't pop off for either of us that we were relying on to like help clinch it, like passing a Bellicor thing or getting the cockatrice to work or letting your axes explode on their 6s to wound. Like that just wasn't happening for him. But I did manage to put myself in a position where it was going to be really hard for it to fully turn around for him very early, because I made flying chosen who were completely, buffed up with a demonic power, and they had the 3d6 charge. And I took advantage of an opening that existed with how almost within millimeters, how the Cornhounds and the, Scarbrand was positioned to go kill him turn 1 before he could do anything. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, and then it was a slog over there with some back and forth and like a really tense nail-biter of a game. At the end of the day, it was a tie. So it ended up being, each of us 2.5 for the tournament. But I had the overall point edge, so I ended up taking the tournament and getting number 1 and winning it for ASL. But really fun game, really great opponent as always. Like every time he and I play, it's like a real great technical game. Like thinking
that's
about
excellent. That's what you're looking for.
Oh yeah, real fun. But I had a great time. Good to get out there, wave the banner for everyone. Our club on the East Coast does not have a lot of representation outside of myself. That in fact might be it.
I love that you got a tie. I feel like every time I have a tie game, that's usually one of my favorite games from any tournament, because it's usually just so much back and forth and drama and everything. Or both of you are failing your roles, everything you need, or a combination of both.
It was exactly that. It was like the comedy of like funny, frustrating moments where something would just go slightly wrong. Okay, really, but everyone was doing that for both sides of those. Like the two that I call out were like the Bellicor flops, or it's his Bellicor cursed my dudes, right? And the Chosen, and just want to come in and kill some demonic power Chosen. No better time than when they can't fight back and kill you, right? Of course, they didn't make any of those saves, so they were stuck kind of staring, transfix whatever you'd shown them. But I tried to transfix his Axe Bloodthirster for that same turn. Passed everything. Didn't even care, But then I might have cursed his axe because he didn't roll a 6 in that thing the whole game over many rounds of combat. And I could just see like the desire for that to turn into like that wave of mortal wounds to simplify the board. But no, just did not happen.
Yeah, it's always kind of sad watching a Corrin player just miss all of those. There's been a couple of games where I've been up. I think I had one game against one of those 2 Bloodthirster lists, and no 6s the whole game, and you could just slowly see like gray jelly leaking from their ears as they're trying to fit their head with their frustration is building.
What do I do now?
Yeah.
What do I do now? This was the one thing you were here for.
And you failed. You failed hard.
Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations, Jax, on the win.
Thanks.
Slow golf clap.
Yeah.
Great time, great guys all around. Great experience. Exactly what you hope for. Local man takes it.
Excellent. Well, that's awesome to hear. Moving on, I went to GT at Warhammer World this weekend, and which was a ton of fun. All right, if you haven't been, obviously it's Warhammer World. It's like the Disneyland of Warhammer.
Yeah, it's the Warhammer Mecca, essentially.
Yeah. And they've got a big, really enormous gaming, arena with like castle walls, facade built up around it, and there's Bugman's Brewery and that kind of thing all around. It's a fun little 2-day event. What's super fun about having it at Warhammer World, so it's kind of weird about the event, so this has nothing to do with the games, is Warhammer World itself is kind of in a... it's in like a what's it called? Not a manufacturing, like a business area, right? Where there's no, it's just like there's nothing but businesses around. There's no places to go eat real fast. There's nothing around it. So built into the ticket price, this commercial. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Built into the price of your ticket is lunch.
Nice.
Is it
you just have it. Well, no, they have it. They have you at the staff cafeteria, so you get the same food that all the staff gets. Including on Sunday, we had Sunday roast, which was very delightful.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a big thing over there.
Yeah. So that was super fun. And I also, actually, I say, Jack, I got one up on you. I won 3 of my games.
That's
outright.
true. That's fair.
But I did also lose 2 of my games. So that somehow counts against me.
Half golf clap. Half golf clap. Only half. Only half.
But they were all super fun. So let's just run through them real quick. So actually, my list was, I think we've talked about it on this show before, but trying out more. I'm kind of tired of the Iron Jaws, just take as many pigs as you can, sort of thought process and that sort of seems to be the standard list that we see a lot of times. So trying out to bring lots of other different things. So we have 15 brutes, a unit of 5, a unit of 10, 15 Ardboys. I do have 6 pigs in the unit. We get the Maw Crusher, who's a Fasten with the Destroyer Axe, and then just a ton of little heroes. So 2 War Chantas. We get the Boss on Foot, who's my Master of Magic Arcane Tome, with Tunnel Master. And then making a sort of surprise appearance is the War Doc from Bone Splitters, making it a big Wa army.
Yeah, War Docs.
Nice.
So he was great.
Dancers.
Yeah, he had the Fists of Gorka Morka spell, which is always strikes last spell. I thought that was fun and thematic for us. I think I cast it exactly once because it's a 12-inch range spell. But what are you going to do?
Quick aside, Miles. I also gave Be'lakor the ASL slide. Spell purely for thematic reasons. But
nice. No, and I would, as I was introing my list to all my opponents, I would give them this. Like, yep, no, we took it for the themes. I'm probably never going to remember to cast this. He's here for Mystic Shield. Nice. But the idea of the list is that, by turn 2, we're +1 to hit and wound on the entire army, and that's pretty good. And that's basically it. That's the list.
As plans go, it is a good one.
Yeah, and then we're just slogging it out like you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
So round 1 was playing Prize of Galette. Is it Galette or Galet? I was thinking about this pre-podcast. The French speaker in me wants to say Galet, but I've heard a lot of Galettes. I'm going to keep going with it, but
I go with Galet as well. Yeah. So
anyway, so Prize of Galet.
Gallum.
Yeah, exactly. This is the mission where you have to turn stuff on, right? The different objectives have to get turned on. I played a fellow named Paul with Sylvaneth, and he had a big unit of 9 of the Bug Riders, a Durthu, some Tree Revs, a Warsong Revenant.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was it. I don't know if he had anything else. Anyway, it seemed good. And I think, unfortunately for him, I've been getting my butt kicked by Sylvaneth for the past 6 months. So I'm really hyper aware of their particular brand of bullshit.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh yeah, no. And I can see that if I just park a guy next to this, I have tons of little heroes. I can just park one of them next to each of these overgrown terrains. And now I don't have to worry about the strike and fade. Oh, he had some Kurnoth. He had the unit of Kurnoth.
You're just look at you not being able to move through your trees.
No, exactly. And then I think the other thing that really was a critical moment was I dispelled the turn 1 tree spell. So that tree that Sylvaneth players like to put in the middle of the board, that was just gone.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
I should say it never existed. It wasn't that it was gone.
It was a sapling that immediately withered and fell.
Yeah.
Sad.
So, and then the rest of it was, because he was sort of having to fight me on my terms now. I was just kind of able to outmuscle him, as you would expect.
That's right, because he couldn't strike and fade on you and do all the things that come from
exactly. But it was super fun, and his army was gorgeously painted. So that was a fun game. My second game was against a fellow named Jack, who was playing Gloomspite Gitz, our favorite army. I know we have some opinions about them.
Big old boogeyman.
And this was only the worthy. So this was the one where Galatian Champion Super Score, right? If that's right.
Yes.
The bonus point, right? If you.
Yep.
No, this is the one where if a Galatian champion is on the objective, nothing else matters.
Oh, that's right.
Gotcha,
That's right.
Gotcha.
That's
denial.
That's fun.
Yeah. So that was really interesting. This was a tough match. I was deep in my head about this match, even going into it, because my only other experience fighting this army was I was tabled on turn 2 before I had a second turn.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, this isn't good. I'm going to lose. And I do think that had I not been in my own head a little bit and played it cooler, it would have been a much tighter match. But he did win. He did beat me, and he played it well. So not going to take any points away there. What was really striking to me was he did a great job of castling up, and I was like, okay, well, you're going to castle up. I'll just castle up. Like, whatever. I can play that game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I gave him the first turn. Miraculously, I outdropped him. I don't know how that worked. But he basically took his Loon Boss on Mangler Squig, buffed him, buffed him to 11, and then basically just like threw him into target after target, bouncing him away. So he killed like 8 brutes in one round of combat and then bounced away.
Wow.
Through impact hits and then just like shredding. At which point I would, and I think probably with some battle shock too, I probably was not able to, or something like that. Anyway, I was down 8 brutes, the next thing I knew. And so as much as I wanted to keep castling, I was like, I cannot keep letting him do this, right? I need to get out. I need to push forward in the way. So even though I would have liked to sort of keep defensive for another turn in order to gain all the WA points to then really, because that's when the army really, really cooks, when you got 2s and 2s on everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're really doing the damage. I really just had to push forward, even though I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, I'm literally playing for the double, where if I get the double turn, I'm in your face. I got everything right where I want it to be. And if I don't get the double, I am so screwed.
Never the spot you wanted to see.
And I didn't get the double, classic, and I was so screwed. And he did a great job of mopping me up. And we tried to get a few points, but it wasn't meant to be. So great job, Jack, with those skits. And they were actually they were painted really fun too. He had these really bright, vibrant pastel colors on everything. So
nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah. They are the scariest thing right now. I don't think anything even approaches them.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. His Loon Shrine was this bright yellow.
I got to dig up that.
Yeah, he dunked it in like the bad moon, like that bad moon yellow paint.
Mm-hmm. That's what they would do, though. That's exactly.
It was eye melting. Yeah. And then round 3 to finish off the first day was a fellow named Daniel who was playing Skaven, and he was playing a bunch of Storm Fiends with 2 Warp Lightning Cannons, some Clan Rats, and a bunch of Acolytes. Nice. And then a bunch of heroes whose names I couldn't remember the entire time. He'd be like, "This is my
Skyer."
He was like, "This is my Warp Engineer," and I was like, "Okay, so the Warp Fiend is gonna do. I'm gonna hit him. Yeah. I'm gonna hit the guy with the rocket launcher.
For my Warlock Engineer and my Bombardier and
exactly.
Yeah.
And this was ours for the taking. So that's the one that's really kind of interesting for me because there's an 11-inch. There's 2 spots on the board where there's an 11-inch gap between you and your opponent. Right. So the slow-moving unit can even make turn 1 charges.
Yep.
Which is really interesting. And I think that caused him to castle really hard. Right, so he basically gave me his home objective, which is worth 2 points to me, in order to castle even harder. And then, so basically I was just scoring really good points. And then at some point, I think it was, again, against my better judgment, I was like, well, I can see the opening into those Storm Fiends. I'm just going to take it, with the Maw Crusher can just get there and it'll probably be fine. It wasn't fine, but I did take 3 Storm Fiends out with him, and then the pigs were able to get in and mop up the rest.
So you got lucky. You got very lucky.
I did get lucky, but I was also, heavily outscoring him. And then the really cheeky thing that happened was the brutes were able to charge in the hero phase using Mighty Destroyers, like a 3-inch charge, because they cleared the screen and then were just sitting there. And then in my hero phase, I charged him again so that I could avoid the Unleash Hell.
Nice.
From all of those acolytes.
Very nice.
Pro move there.
So,
because you don't want to be on the receiving end of that. Acolytes
no, exactly.
Nasty good.
Yeah, those Storm Fiends are they have so many wounds.
Mm-hmm.
They're so tanky. They're just they're also just so weird. They got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, what weapon option combo is there? Oh man, I forgot what that one did. Then it does it to you.
Yep. No, exactly.
There are a lot of work to play, for sure as well. That's the crazy thing about them. Yeah, but they're a lot tankier than they look, which is funny.
I really liked his Arch Warlock. No, God, it's the only one. It's the
guy who shot.
No, he had like a hammer. His model was converted, so I'm not gonna get it from the Arch Warlock. It's probably the Arch Warlock.
Probably.
Anyway. It's got Lightning Storm. Anyway, he's got this bubble spell that he keeps casting on him that gives him basically a couple extra ablative wounds and a pretty good ward save. Nice. That was really interesting, and so made this little rat hero that way tank. He was fighting brutes toe to toe, no problem. And I was like, who is this little rat hero?
That is really cool. I don't think I've seen that used before.
Yeah.
Little rat Fran.
So that was great, and so ended the first day 2-1, which is about as good as you can hope for, and going into turn 2 or going into day 2. So come screaming in the next morning because somebody had to sleep in. It's classic. It was only about 10% hungover, which is admirable.
That's better than 20 or anything.
Above the curve.
Yeah, exactly. And was playing this guy named Nicky who had Stormcast Eternals. And this was, his army was so fantastic. Just as an aside, it was almost 100% models from the Dominion box.
Wow.
Nice.
It was 3 units of Vindictors, 5 units of Annihilators, the guy with dog who comes in the Dominion box, and the mage that comes in Dominion box, and Yndrasta. And then as a tech choice, he had brought a Lore Seeker because that's a really good tech choice if you're Stormcast.
Oh yeah.
And this was position over power, which I had never played before, so shame on me for showing up to the GT not having played one of the missions. And this game was basically over the second I deployed. It just did.
Oh no!
I don't know, and so he outdropped me because he was a 2-drop, and then decided to take the first turn and go for the Alpha Strike. And I think, I would have done the same in his position, or I would have done the same thing to him had he let me go first. So I think it was probably a smart move. But that's the one. So this mission, you have a pretty small deployment box where you're pinned in on both sides. And then you also, you only get, you're 14 inches up, you're 13 inches up, whatever it is. So, it's a pretty tight box. So I'm having a hard time fitting all of these orcs in this box. Right? Classic orc problem. And then he is just able to pin me in on three sides with annihilators before anything else happens.
Yeah, and those will do work. So
yeah, so before I even get to do anything, my general is dead because he was kind of in a corner. And Yndrasta is also in my face. And the Lore Master is just deploying on a flank objective, scoring double points for just existing like the asshole that he is.
Yeah, I can see it right now.
Yep.
And then it was my turn, and I just could never get out of that deployment zone. I spent the entire. I don't think I ever got out of my deployment zone.
That's like the Annihilator dream. It's like we're tough, we're big. Grand Hammer's not
now.
gonna die.
Did he make a bunch of 7 and 9 inch rerollable charges? Yeah, he sure did. But like, he also played well for them, and then got the buffs where he needed them to be, and I think it was definitely felt like showing up with scissors to a rock fight. Like
yeah, there's something to be said about that as well too. It seems like we're finding a lot more scissors, rocks, and paper in the game as it progresses through 3.0.
But I also want to commend him. Like, clearly he was a 2-1, right? That at that moment, soon to be a 3-1 after our game, with a army that was built almost entirely out of a starter box.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, whenever that one, there's a local player that shows up with that style of list as well, and every time it's like, okay, he's going to rinse, repeat, drop one unit of annihilators down on me, hit me, then hit me the next turn with the next unit of annihilators, and then next turn hit me, and it's just like, okay, so they're always going to have 50-50 rerollable charges. This is going to be pretty painful. How do we deal with this? It's a very cool idea that came out of that box.
I do love that theme. It's very nerve-wracking as the opponent facing it, because you gotta protect vulnerable stuff like for the whole game, and you can't really rely on statistics to protect you.
Yeah, and more so, it puts you in that if you weren't protecting, then you have to play like extreme risk to reward to get anything done, right?
Right.
So
true.
So it's a fun matchup against those.
Yeah.
First time it's not fun.
But very well played on his part. Obviously, I know I pose like a very fast, hard-hitting threat. So he went for a risky move, and it totally paid off. And absolutely more props to him.
Nice.
And then last game of the day was a fellow named Richard playing his Ogres. And so I think one thing that gave me a pretty significant advantage, I think, in this fight was that my friend Don plays almost exactly the same list. So that was super duper. So I knew exactly what to expect going in. That didn't mean that I was, definitely had like the numbers advantage by any stretch of the imagination, but I knew what was going to happen. And that
you were familiar with that one. It was.
Exactly.
Known to you. Nice.
We're playing.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go for it. We're playing Jaws of Galat, which is the one where objectives start mysteriously disappearing. Actually, we learned something fun in this mission, which is that you control terrain, much like objectives, which is that if you control the terrain and then left, it's still yours until somebody else shows up.
Yep. Yeah.
So you can actually desecrate a piece of terrain that you controlled 3 turns ago, as long as no one has shown up since then.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even think of it as a possibility.
And we got so this was from the TO at Warhammer World. There is no more official call than this, in my opinion.
Yeah, if he makes the wrong call there.
Yeah.
If he makes the wrong call there, they call him the back office and they tell him what's
exactly up. Right. Yeah, you're on sprue duty from now on.
You're making sprue goo for 12 hours as a
exactly.
They got to call it spruity duty.
Mm-hmm. But so I was able to get a clutch secondary thanks to that, and then just to eliminate any feel bads, Richard was able to get that same secondary a turn later off of me with using the same principle. So
nice.
We all got it. But this game was a bloodbath, and it was 10 brutes just evaporate, and then the next turn, like my Maw Crusher is into both cannons and the tyrant, and they just go away, right? Like with a bunch of like it was just big swings left and right, turn after turn, and so and the points were tight. He definitely had he had a points advantage sort of from the start, and I was sort of trying to eat up. I was winning the attrition battle a little bit, and so I was like, okay, but if I can just round the corner on this, I'll be okay. But as the turns kept creeping, it was like, am I going to round the corner on this? Am I going to do it?
Suspense the whole time because nothing was like in the bag. I totally get you.
Exactly. There was a great fight with, I had like all of my Ard boys and my Maw Crusher into his Stonehorn, who was still, and the Stonehorn was on like a 2-up or like a 0-up. Some point where like the Maw Crusher's Rend was not really helping in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm like, well, fuck it. Let's just throw these Ard. Let's fight with the Ard boys first. They have more attacks. They do just as good a damage, right? And I'm just fishing for ones, right? So I do that. I do a bunch of damage. It doesn't quite kill him, and then he's able to ice the Maw Crusher before he gets to fight. He did just enough wounds to. So anyway, that was a big bummer, and that was like, well, do I get the terrain or do I not get the terrain from last turn because I was already sitting here. But anyway. And then in the end, I finally broke away from that, and I had like that unit of Ard boys was still in the middle. His Blood Pelt Hunter was running for the last moment, grab a cheeky turn 5, grab an objective, and the Ard boys were able to make a long bomb charge to intercept. I don't know that it would have completely swayed the game one way or the other, but it was able to no, that's it.
Shut it down, clinch the victory for the 3-2, and nice, nice,
and really well played. Right. Every turn was on the edge of our seats both ways. So that was really great games from everybody. And if you do get a chance to play at Warhammer World, I would recommend it. It's definitely a fun time.
Fantastic,
awesome.
Miles.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've hit our edge today after
we've
some
hit the
great
quota.
Reports. Yeah.
We have talked for our regimented 53 minutes or whatever.
Indeed, our somewhat loose but still sort of intact self-discipline will prevail. Matt, we've got to hear about these games of yours next time and how they translate into the upcoming victory at Sparkle Party.
Well, on our next cast, we'll have actual updates from Sparkle Party, so I can give you the before and the after.
That's perfect.
Sparkle.
Yeah, so we'll see how the rats do. Going to be taking all ninja rats because
all ninjas.
Why not? Right? If you're gonna fail big.
Are you taking that Skaven catapult thing you were talking about in chat?
Nope. Waiting on. I still need to convert 2 up. So
okay,
I've got one. Need another.
I'm completely sold on those. Those things. Those seem hilarious.
Yeah,
I'm in
great.
favor.
They're great. Eventually, we'll lean into that. But I think for this season, I'm going to stick on rats, and we'll see how Eshin does. Probably pretty poorly, but it'll be fun. Nothing better than little splinters running around the table. So
there you go. I think that. I decided after my game with Skaven, I don't think I could play that army because I would take the gamble 1,000% of the time, and it would destroy me every single game.
That's what makes it so much fun. If you don't care about winning, then it's an amazing army. So
liquid fun, like a dangerous substance like Warpstone.
Indeed. Warpstone incarnate.
Sounds good. Well, if you made it this far, thanks for reaching the end. And thanks for listening. And remember to strike last, I guess.
Strike it last.
Absolutely. Remember, strike last. He who strikes last.
Always.
Winning.